We're gonna make sure that Zoom is setting up right.
That's a good idea. That is a very good idea. And just so you know, we're already streaming live on Facebook. So
Okay, good to know.
yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Altita. That's a good idea.
Why they want us to work from home no more?
Protests maybe.
Oh,
I mean, you can come in if you want, but we just, I mean, I think there'll be a lot of protests for the Juneteenth holiday.
you think?
I think there will be. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to be violent or anything. I just think there'll be a lot of people out protesting because, you know, that person got hit yesterday. That protester got hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's over.
The door was open.
We're gonna have to grab the 14th floor key.
Oh, yeah. There's somebody that'll let you in probably, but. Can you hear me, Aaron?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, now I can hear you. Good.
Yeah, I had to run and go take a break.
Yeah, I hear you. And we're streaming already. I sent you,
Okay.
so you know.
Oh, Brandon, did you send the YouTube link?
I did.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh my goodness, I need a book. I'm not.
You don't need a book. Could you hear that?
Yeah, what was that?
That was my computer.
What was your computer making that sound for?
Because I have a seashore desktop background theme, and now it makes noises.
Oh, wow.
I know, which isn't a big deal. I actually kind of like it, but not good for meetings online. Good morning. Good. That is correct. They did. That's correct.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
As we're just waiting on it, it has to go through finance, legal to be looked at. So, but it should be fine as far as I know. We just use their template. So, yeah, just I'll make sure I'll move everyone out. And when you're ready to come back, if you or Terrence could just call me on my cell. That would be great. All right. Are you downstairs? Okay. If you have any problems with the Zoom down there, just let me know. All right. Bye-bye. Here they come. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Do we sound okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Well, say something else. That sounded a little muffled.
Say something.
Okay, that sounds good.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Carr.
Good morning.
Morning, Commissioner Carr.
Morning.
Good morning. Y'all are far away.
We do, don't we?
You're very far away. I'll move this up some.
Is that better?
That is better.
Closer.
You're so too far away. I can move the table up some.
That's better.
Okay. I still must be right on. I'll change it, please.
Can you hear me, Cynthia?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, it's just, this is my home computer and I wasn't sure what it can and can't always do. Okay. I'll put myself on mute now.
Okay. Cynthia, are you having any problems with your shared drive? No. Mm-mm.
Brandon, do you just see two commissioners on your end currently?
Well,
We're only-
three.
Three.
Yeah, that's right. And Commissioner Rabbi is entering now. Good morning.
Good morning,
We
Rabbi.
need two more for a quorum.
Morning.
here's Commissioner Cummings.
Form. Cynthia,
Yes,
we'll need 6 for a quorum.
yes.
Okay.
You have 5 right now.
I was on early. I'm gonna tell them about the study notes. Okay, somebody can bring that up. Yeah. You have anyone else entering? Yeah, there's
Commissioner Fuentes just entered.
Sideways.
There we go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I don't see Commissioner Cummings any longer.
He on earlier,
He was briefly.
or was he?
We've got 6 now, right?
No, we only have 5. With Commissioner Cummings, it would be 6.
Oh, so the chair doesn't count?
Yeah, the chair counts, but I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's Commissioner Cummings. So we have 6 now.
I don't have my gavel to bang and say call to order, but we're gonna call to order the meeting. Do we have a confirmation of a quorum? Yes.
Cynthia, you're on mute.
Yes, we have confirmation of a quorum.
Confirmation of public notice.
Yes, it was sent out on Friday.
Have any public participation? Doesn't appear to be. Okay, the consideration of the approval of minutes of the meeting held on May 21st, 2020. I have a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Thanks, Alma.
I'm sorry.
I've got a couple of things in the minutes.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Cummings.
Okay, hey, on page 8, the second paragraph from the bottom. I think there was a discussion between Commissioner Cusick and Aaron and I believe Cedric about one of the cases and the communication with the complainant. In the bottom of that paragraph, it says Commissioner Cummings said if he did not speak with her, that was fine as long as the narrative is true to his investigation. I'd like that struck. I don't recall being a part of that conversation. I'm not sure who else might have been involved in that conversation, but I'm not even sure what that sentence means, to be honest.
You weren't. That was Commissioner Cusick. It should be. Commissioner Cusick said that if Cedric did not speak with her, that was fine, as long as it was true to his investigation.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I didn't recall being a part of that one, so.
Correct.
And then my only other one was on page 11. The third paragraph. And it's the last sentence in that paragraph. It says, he stated, it's talking about me, he stated, maybe Commissioner Cusick would bring it to the board. And I think this is important, is that when your committees are meeting and they start to talk about new procedures and processes, if the committee comes up with a new procedure process, it should be presented back to the board for approval, that the committee can't change it on just their own. The board has to approve it. And so that last sentence, I would like it to say, he stated Commissioner Cusick would bring it to the board if there is an update. And maybe put in there that the board would then have to vote to accept that new process or procedure from the committee.
Restate that so we make certain that it's correct for the minutes.
Yeah, so he stated Commissioner Cusick would bring it to the board, indicating there is an update to the procedures addressing the issue that occurred back in January, February, and this is the updated process in place. And then I would put after that, the board would then vote to accept from the committee the new processes and procedures, or proposed processes and procedures.
I got it.
That's all I've got. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or corrections? Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Trying to unmute. I will second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Rabbi and second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Action reports. We're going to have our executive director's report will be twofold this morning. So we will start with our former interim executive director giving a report, and of course effective June the 16th, our new executive director, who is seated here by me, Terrence Sullivan, will join in and give a report over what he's done the last couple of days, but he was actually working before June the 16th. So Ms. Fox, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to welcome Terrence Sullivan to the position of executive director. We are very happy to have him here, and I know he'll do great things. On my report, it's very brief. Just wanted to let you know that we have hired a staff attorney too, and Terrence and or Brandon will get into more detail about that. The person is Colt Sales, and Mr. Sales will start on July 1st. And there is still a vacancy for the enforcement officer 1 position that Erin is interviewing for, and she'll give you an update on that. The last position we have is the executive administrative secretary, and it just needs to be determined when and if we will fill that position. Do you have any questions? Oh, I did one more thing. One of our action items was regarding a private attorney to locate a respondent. And I just wanted to let you know that we have hired the Beacon Group of Frankfort, Kentucky, to locate the respondent in anybody's diner. And he took a payment of $500. If he is able to do it for less than $500, he will reimburse us whatever the difference is. But I did want to let you know that that is in play right now. The process has started for that.
That's great. Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Good deal.
That's
Is that
it.
complete? Okay.
Yes,
Great.
ma'am.
Before we move forward to our new director, I want to commend Ms. Fox for going above and beyond every step of the way during the interim period. She was sort of like the glue that kept things together for us. And we just can't say enough about what a tremendous asset that you have been to the commission and continue to be. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, our new executive director is on board now. Very, very excited about the great things that he is going to be doing. And although he officially started yesterday, Terrence hit the ground running after he was announced to be our new executive director. So he's been working without pay in a lot of ways, but I think that's reflective of his commitment to move the agency forward. So I'm going to turn it over now to Terrence to sort of bring us up to date on what he's done so far, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This will be pretty brief. I did want to start by saying that just bringing you all up to speed on some of the things that I've been doing or some people I've been talking to, that part of some of those conversations. This afternoon, I was invited to be a panelist with the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce to discuss racial inequalities in Kentucky. I'll be joined by the CEO of the Urban League, some of the workers from the ACLU, Anti-Racism Kentucky, the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities, and a few others from around the state. So that will be at 2 o'clock this afternoon online. So if anyone wants to watch that or participate, I can send out the information. As far as hitting the ground running, I started and read through quite a few of the cases, and I will begin the priority item of reaching out to the complainants next week. I plan to have all of them contacted before we reconvene in August. And I'm also working to assess where the backlog of cases sits and identifying where our next steps can be. There are a couple office updates, as Cynthia mentioned, that Colt Sells will be joining as staff attorney on July 1. And I talked to Colt a couple times about the backlog of cases. And so we've already talked about a plan on identifying next steps together on how we can proceed moving forward. And the plan is to assess viability and the legal direction within the first 2 weeks of him starting. A couple other office updates. We are working, and we've been talking to Brandon about applying for state email addresses for commissioners. That way all business can be conducted on state emails, which can then be easier compliance with possible open records requests and not getting into the murky issues with trying to address personal email addresses. And the last office update of conversations that we've had is I've talked to the chair and Brandon and Cynthia about discussing ways to modernize these meeting books. And we're looking at ways to save time and cost to make them, and also make them less burdensome for your own record keeping. We've talked, Brandon and I have talked about exploring ways to locate and expend federal dollars to cover that option. And so we can follow up when we have more information on what that could look like and what some of the plans are. And If someone, if a commissioner requests still wants a printed version, we can do the printed version. But we are discussing ways to just make it a little more efficient for you all and easier to keep track of and record of. That's all.
Any questions?
I have a comment, please.
Sure.
Are you listening to me?
Of
Alma?
course. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first
Yes.
of all, congratulations, Mr. Sullivan. I'm glad, to see you joining us. So I think that, we will do a lot of things for good together. So I just want to make a comment. I really would like to encourage you to take some actions to be in order that the Kentucky Commission of Human Rights can be more visible for the local Hispanic community. I'm willing to work with you. So I'm open. I can give you some suggestions, some ideas, but I really think that we really need to reach this community because it's a minority. It's a group that is looking for our help and our representation. And I think that right now we are not doing a really good job in this subject. So just want to mention that I'm available. I'm ready to be part of, this, this team. So I really would like, again, to push you to try to do something for the local Hispanic community.
I 100% agree with you, and I will email you and we can set up some time to talk. I will email you right after the Kentucky Chamber event ends this afternoon. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Budget and personnel. Brandon, you're up.
report. Yes, you have my report before you, and including the two action items. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. Oh, there is one correction that Commissioner Smith kindly brought to my attention. The expense lines E212 and E221, after the May line, they were swapped. I have to manually adjust those due to blanks and other lines. So if you look at it's, oh, you don't have the rows. Yeah, it's E212 electricity and E221. The fiscal year to date, fiscal 2020 year to date, and fiscal 19 year to date, and the difference lines were actually swapped. So I've corrected that, but your copies won't reflect that. Thank you.
Hey, Brandon, one question. The periods on their graph on the last page there,
Yes.
is that because there's two pay periods per month, or?
That is exactly right.
And then for 2020, you ran it out for 20 pay periods?
That is correct, because we hadn't had all the pay periods at that time, and
Okay.
I don't have that open, but yes, there's 2 pay periods per month, and it was for 2 fiscal years.
Yeah, hey, thanks for pulling that together. That picture tells a lot about what's going on right now with, I guess, the hirings and all that.
Right, and at the end of the fiscal year, at the end of this month, I'm going to do a complete picture for fiscal year 2020 and try to get a good estimate for where we're heading with the different contingencies for fiscal year 21. I can tell you, due to the increase in the retirement contributions and the $79,000 decrease in the budget, it's not super rosy because I expect, further budget reductions in early July. So as soon as that's available, I'll give you a complete picture of what we're looking at for the next year.
What do you anticipate that being? Future
The budget reduction or the
budget reduction?
So my guess is it will be the middle of July is when they'll start announcing it. I think that they'll want to get on it pretty early. They're just, right now everybody's focusing on the fiscal year closeout. All the accounting people are focusing on the closeout, and then the CAFA reporting. So I would say the middle of July to late July, they'll want to go ahead and announce something. It looks like, based on the national numbers I've seen and then the local numbers in Louisville, wasn't as bad. It bounced back in May a little quicker. So it might not be as dire as they originally thought it was. But I do still expect some type of budget reduction plan due to the way, the lower receipts from the consensus forecasting group. But I plan on having that information, at least a summary and a really good picture of what the fiscal year 20 looked like. Because looking at it month to month, due to the timing of some of our bills and payroll, you can't always see a good picture, a good annual picture, or a good picture of how it's progressing. So the July 15th is my goal, to have that to you so that we can plan going forward. And the payroll analysis, I did give you a picture of what it's going to look like if we were fully staffed per month in fiscal year 21.
You have any more questions, Brandon?
Hey, Alma, just real quickly. Hey, Debbie, can you hear us okay?
Mic on.
We can't hear her. You might have do you have your mute on?
Muted.
She can't hear you, Debbie.
Well,
There you are.
oh, I may have my
There you go.
other stuff. Okay. What's up? Slow motion.
Yes.
Yeah, they've got.
It looks like we have 3 Debbie Coles.
Well, I don't
Do.
know. I see 2, but I don't know one to erase one, because I don't know if I'll erase everybody.
One is on the phone, so you can
Oh, well,
hang
I
up.
lost all of you now. See, that's what I'm saying. Okay. I got all you guys up. Or maybe take that one out. I hope I don't mess up.
It's always a challenge.
I know, and I came up here late. Let me see. Did I lose everybody? Okay, there we go. I don't know why I left here a couple of times. I don't know. Where we got one. So did one leave?
Actually, I muted one,
Oh, did
so
you?
we can't hear you twice. So I think everything's okay now, as long as you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you and I can see you.
Okay.
Oh,
we can hear
and
you.
Good.
it sounds much better
Oh,
because
okay.
you were echoing. So
Yeah, I've got this radio stuff hooked up in here too, so that might be it.
all the technology.
I know. Well, I can see you well and I can hear you, so that's good.
Mr. Cummings, did you have a question for Commissioner Howell, or were you just making?
No, I just saw on the chat that Debbie was wondering if we could hear her.
Okay, okay.
I'm
Okay,
good.
so do we additional questions regarding budget and personnel? No? Okay. Enforcement unit, Ms. Spalding, you are up.
All right, you all have my report. Do you have any questions on the report? itself.
Hey,
All right.
Aaron, I do have a question. Hey, just
Okay.
on the number of cases and the average case age, and
Uh-huh.
do you see those numbers improving as time goes by, or you think that with the additional new hire and stuff like that, that's going to help you guys to reduce it more?
Well, I think with the new hire of the attorney will really help us. Our housing case age was staying around 98 days, but we have cases now that are pending legal assistance review and case panel review that we were trying to wait until the new attorney came, but I think Altita is going to go ahead and address some of the case panels. But because those have been waiting, I think since November for a panel meeting, for a meeting, those has caused the age of the housing cases to go up. And there's not as many employment cases that are pending PC panel or legal assistance review. So you don't see that so much on the employment side. I'd have to go back and look on the employment side and see what that case age, where we are, if we're going up or down.
Yeah, and my question would be, so is there a goal based on the particular case as far as the number of days, or do you just kind of work them as you go? Because some of them they may run into, you know, the timeline that we're allowed to have for determining probable cause and all that, right?
No, not for employment PA, because those go to mediation first.
What about
Housing goes immediately to an enforcement officer, but it does not. I don't know if it's included in housing, and the statute is different. So I don't know if that statute that addresses that timeline includes housing. I'd have to go back and look at it. Housing, the goal is 100 days. That's what HUD really wants you to get those out by. And like I said, our case age for housing was running about 98 days. We actually got commended by HUD for that. But with these cases that are pending panel review, it has made it go up to, I think, about 130 days, I think I saw.
Okay. So, Mr. Sullivan, I'm Commissioner Cummins. Nice to meet you and welcome. One of the concerns, I think, on the age of cases and that is that I think there's kind of a process where, hey, we get the complaint, it goes to enforcement, they do the investigation, it comes out as maybe a probable cause or a case panel review, and then legal takes it. And then if we pursue action or a hearing or whatever, we do that kind of as a part of the process, but we don't do a really good job, I don't think, of timeline. And so what we've seen in the past is a few cases that have come back where I don't want to use, this might not be the right term, but thrown out because of the length of time that it took to determine probable cause, or the length of time it took to bring the case before the courts or to a hearing. And so I think one of the things going forward, and there might be one of the things that you work with Mr. Sells on, is that, hey, that process should be, hey, we've got it coming in. If it's housing, this path and this timeline. If it's employment or PA, then hey, this timeline or whatever. I should say housing and PA, but that's, I think that's one of the things that we probably haven't done a great job with, as far as looking at, hey, what should be the goals depending on the type of case that's being brought forward. Does that make sense, Aaron?
Yeah.
And I do think that makes sense. I do plan on meeting with everyone on the team in the next couple of weeks, and that's part of it, is talking about how we can improve the process. And Colt and I have talked about that as well. So that can all be, hopefully in August, we can talk about new design ideas on how we can more functionally process some of those things. And so I hope in August to be able to have a better handle of how we can address some of that.
Great.
Okay, any other questions before I go to the cases? All right, the cases that you have before you, we have 22 cases. 3 of those cases are dismissals without prejudice. We have 1 reconsideration, 11 no probable cause cases, 3 withdrawals, and 4 withdrawal with settlements. Are there any questions on the cases?
I've got just one.
Okay.
I know you don't believe me, but I just have just one question. Hey, the second case in there, it's KCHR number 1923-H.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had fair housing advocates. I think they've been in discussions before. Is that correct?
Well, fair housing advocates, we had a year where I think we may have filed, Marianne can maybe help clarify this because she's with intake, I think around 16 or 17 cases against the fair, that the fair housing advocacy filed. There were some issues on if they actually had standing to file. So we had to close a lot of them, you know, per HUD because they didn't have standing to file. There were some that they, after that, they had found complainants, and that's what you see in this Batterman case. I can't answer any particular questions as far as this case. Altita may be able to. That was a case that was in legal, but that's the fair housing advocates. We did have a lot of those cases.
Yeah. So if we went back now, could we tell how many we still have that are outstanding that involve the fair housing advocates? Do you know?
I think there's only a couple. There was only 2 or 3 that even made it to the legal. The rest were closed out as MPCs or withdrawal because of the lack of standing. Altita may be able to answer that question about how many are in legal. There's none in enforcement.
It's the only one I know of. And I dismissed it because the agency, that FHA is now defunct.
Yeah. So my question is, if we have any cases backlogged at this point right now, should we be dismissing those because of that agency being defunct at this point?
Well, we can't find the respondents, so you can't have a hearing or anything. The agency don't exist anymore.
Okay. So I guess my only point was it's come up several times, and so I'm thinking we shouldn't be even spending any time on it. I don't think at this point right now if the agency doesn't exist anymore.
That's why I asked you to dismiss it without prejudice. If
Yeah,
they ever come back or something.
I'm talking about any other cases that may be out there that are not.
We don't have any more of these from these fair housing, from these agencies. I don't have another one.
Okay. And then the only other thing, Aaron, as an action item, can you go back and look and see how many times Heartland Mobile Home Park has come into play on cases over, like, I don't know, maybe last 3 or 4 years?
Yep, I can actually search it while the meeting's going on. It won't take me but a second.
Okay, thanks. That's all the questions I have.
Are there any other questions? Any other questions regarding the cases?
Have other questions?
You guys hear me? Okay, yeah, I hear myself.
So educate me for a second here. When we have a case where you've lost contact with the respondent, the business is no longer in existence, what do you normally do at that point?
It depends on what point the case is. In legal, it may be a little different. In enforcement, I just sent out an email this morning to all the commissioners regarding communication between the commission staff and the complainant, and communication between the commission staff and the respondent. If in the enforcement, while the case is enforcement and being investigated, if we lose contact with the complainant or the complainant goes out of business, we submit a legal assistance request to the attorneys to get guidance on how to proceed forward. Those cases are just not closed. So if we lose contact, an attorney may do a search for the respondent and serve their registered agent, or they may do a motion to compel to make them provide information that we've asked for. Altita may be able to talk more so of what happens in the legal department if they lose contact or the business shuts down or closes for some reason. But enforcement, we do a legal assistance request. And in the enforcement report too, you will see a list of cases that are pending legal assistance requests or case review panels. And a lot of those legal assistance requests are if a respondent fails to provide information or something of that nature. And those, we get assistance from the legal department.
It's the main thing I'm concerned about is that when a situation like that happens, that we're contacting the complainant as soon as possible to make them aware that no further action is being taken, you know, regarding the case.
Well, in enforcement, when we lose contact or a respondent closes down, we usually let the complainant know, hey, we're submitting a legal assistance request to get guidance from our attorneys. As soon as we get guidance from our attorneys, we'll let you know what they tell us to do. Like I said, Altita might be able to talk more of how they do it. And, once the case goes into legal, it might be a little bit different. Once PC is already established, I'm not sure there.
Altita, would you care to comment on that?
Well, in this particular case, I just administratively closed it. The complainant in this case, in the end, got to stay in his apartment anyway, and they didn't, and at no charge. So it's nothing, I've tried to search for the company. I did everything I could, and they just not there. So I dismissed it. It wasn't the complainant themselves that filed the complaint. It was just this agency that filed the complaint. So if we had another one like that, I would probably ask you to administratively close it. I mean, we can't do anything if you don't have a respondent.
Right.
And like I say, this is not a complainant filing themselves, so it's no harm to the complaint.
Right.
And Commissioner Cummins.
Yes.
I just searched our legal docket book and we only had 2 cases filed against Heartland Mobile Home Park. And it looks like they made their companion cases. I believe they're companion cases.
Oh, companion with the one today?
That's what it looks like from the legal docket book.
Okay, no, that's good. I just was wondering if it showed up more than that, but that's fine.
No, those are the only 2 complaints I saw filed against Heartland Mobile.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Trying to establish a pattern.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we have a motion to accept her report.
Oh, I have one question. Aaron, if so Heartland, are you saying that the only 2 that are coming up are the only 2 ever or the only 2 current?
Let me see, our docket book goes back to our electronic docket book goes back to January 4th, 2000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
10 years, yeah.
I think Commissioner Cummins also, the name Heartland, I think has come up several times, but I think that's probably just because of E-Town and the different Heartland businesses with the name Heartland in it. So
Yeah.
it always piques my attention too as well. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was knowing where he was going with that too.
Okay. Okay, so you need a motion to accept the report. Is that the cases, Alma? Is that what you need?
To accept the cases.
I move that we accept the. I move that we accept the cases.
I have a motion by Commissioner Smith to accept the case. Someone else have something to say? Oh, Commissioner Coward.
Second.
Second the motion. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
I
Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Spalding.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Education and Outreach, Ms. Taylor, you're up.
Good morning. You have my report as well. I do have one correction on number of cases forwarded to legal for filing. There were 16 instead of 14. So there were 2 additional employment cases that were forwarded to legal for filing. So I just wanted to make that correction. Are there any other questions? I do have one other comment before closing. We had quite a bit of traffic, email traffic about a case. There was a gentleman in Frankfurt who has a trucking company, and he got rather, I guess, excited over the most recent events going on in the country, and was quite concerned about his employees and who he was and was not going to hire. And he felt like he might need to call in some reinforcements to protect his company, his reinforcements being the KKK, and that he was going to join up and he was not going to hire anyone who couldn't read, write, or speak English.
Oh, wow.
And so a lot of folks were writing in and telling us we needed to get on that right away. So I did forward that on to FBI agents, and I don't know what they did or said to him, but I did see a lot of traffic go, a lot of that he said, she said kind of traffic between the folks who were writing to us and to him. So I was able to pick up immediately that there was some personal stuff going on as well that we have no business being involved in. And then when I went and actually checked his Facebook page, because all of this was Facebook traffic, none of that was there. It had been taken down, even though they screenshot what he had said to me. When I went and searched his Facebook page, it was gone. So I don't know if that was a result of FBI intervention or what, but I did I did look for his Facebook page, and I kind of searched around and I couldn't find anything. So I will continue to every now and then go back and recheck that. And those emails have quit coming to us. So hopefully he has taken that down. But just those are the kinds of calls that we have been getting lately. In the housing arena, we are beginning to get swamped because the courts are beginning to open back up for eviction cases. They are starting to take eviction cases again, not necessarily for non-payment due to COVID, but they'll take eviction cases for other things. So even though it's been non-payment, a landlord might say, well, I'm evicting you for a noise violation or something like that. Just so you'll know, we're starting to get a lot, we're getting slammed in the housing arena. So the Lexington Fair Housing Council has put out a resource book, places that we can send folks to try to get assistance, with rent, with food, with whatever, just trying to help folks get through this period. Because most of those issues are not jurisdictional for us, but they are calling us every day with those kind of issues. And it's summertime, so I'll get 2 or 3 calls a day about mold and air conditioners not working and needing fans and needing window units and that kind of thing. So that's what's happening in the world of education and outreach. And
Taylor,
Thank you, Mary.
closely with the local commissions across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Are you experiencing a lot of calls as it relates to the protest events that's going on?
Not really. The calls, we had a Zoom meeting 2 months ago, I guess in March. And what they wanted to know is what was our role going to be as it relates to protest and whatnot. And you know, they knew what their involvement was going to be in their counties and their cities, but they wanted to know what the state's role was going to be. And basically, I told them that I wasn't sure yet, that we were going to wait on our new director and to find out what direction and vision he had for our agency, and that we would be following his lead once he got here.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any additional questions for Ms. Taylor?
We do have one lady that wanted to sue the governor. And we've all talked to her. She wanted to, she heard his press conference where he said that he hoped that everyone, especially all African Americans, would have health insurance. And she felt like he was wrong to say that, because he didn't mention everyone. And there's a lot of poor whites that don't have health insurance, and it was unfair for him to single out one particular group for health insurance and not all groups, and that is discriminatory. So we had to work with her a little bit, and several folks have talked to her. So you guys might get a letter or a call from her, because she's very persistent. Now that's all. Okay.
I do have a comment. Even though Mary Ann, we're getting a lot of calls for things that we have no jurisdiction over, it's encouraging to me that people are knowing that we're out here and are advocating for the things we advocate for. But it's a lot of work, a lot of extra work on your part, but it's encouraging that people are reaching out and seeking help. So thank you.
Send them somewhere that we can find resources to make referrals.
Yes, that's right. That's good. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good job, Taylor. Okay, we'll move to legal. Ms. McWilliams, you're on.
You have the report. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I do have one. So there was a additional, I guess, a couple pages that were inserted into the legal portion. I guess it's all legal unit cases, an index of open cases. First of all, I really like this because it makes it really easy for us to go through and get a good summary of what's going on. And I like the fact that you guys are really taking a strong stance with the hearings that we've done, to go out there and make sure that the judgments are filed in the circuit courts, and that you pursue through investigators, whatever, to try to make sure that we find a way to make sure that the complainant's judgment was met. I did have one question for you, and prior to, since we have such old cases, and Mr. Sullivan, this will probably be for you too, since we have cases that are old, in order to head off a judge saying, hey, it took too long, you didn't live up to the statutes or whatever, would part of our approach, and maybe this is more just a question, not that I need an answer, but maybe more of our approach should be that for the age cases, that we try to file early enough with the courts for additional time. Because what I've noticed in the statements from the judges is that no explanation was given for why additional time was needed. And so I didn't know if, from a legal standpoint, if we had cases that were old that we still believed that they needed to be adjudicated, that we wouldn't go ahead and file for a motion to extend the time it would take for us to determine probable cause or to bring it before the courts and to state the reason why, if we have a valid reason, I guess.
We only had one that the judge said that about, and the probable cause is really determined during the after the investigation. It's given to legal for them to formally PC it, but the investigator, if he hasn't done it in that 100 days, then they send them a letter telling them why they need a longer time. So that's what the judge was alleging, that we did not give a reason for not finding probable cause in 100 days. But it wasn't just that about that case. The judge also said that it was a failure to answer the discovery. So that's the part you couldn't appeal because I don't know if it's Counsel Keith's, whatever. He didn't answer the discovery on time. And so that's what caused that case to be dismissed.
Yeah, I think there was one where it was dismissed because of the timeline, but in other cases, one
Now,
being,
the other one, the judge just said, you all are saying that they didn't okay the man's emotional support animal. So you all went over your 100 days, so why can't they go over there? So that's pretty kind of what he said. But that case is being appealed. It's being appealed
yeah, so
because the judge was wrong about that. And we have law now to back up the 100 days.
so what I was going to say is in the other cases, even though it wasn't thrown out for that particular reason, it's mentioned. And I think one of them was like the teen challenge case where the judge made note of the amount of time that it took and that there was no request for any additional time. And so if it wasn't thrown out specifically for that, it's coming up more and more. And so the only reason why I bring it up is because we may want to take a different approach with our procedures in order to head that off so it doesn't get thrown out for that. Precedent's been set, I would say, at this point, if one's been thrown out based on that reason.
Commissioner Cummins, I have a question. Are you saying that for future cases that it might be imperative for us to go ahead and acknowledge that due to some of the processes we might need more time?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Is that, and that can be something we, especially once Colt joins, that can also be something that we start to put in the process, is having a preliminary review of what we think might take a little longer and then get that ready just in case.
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what I'm asking for. Thank you. And Mr. Sells may say, hey, there's no legal way to do that, or we can't do that, or whatever. I'm just saying it may be something worth looking at, especially if there are cases we feel pretty strongly about that the complainant deserve justice, and that hey, we need to get in front of the judge there and ask for the additional time, and here's why, so that we can head that off in when it finally goes before them.
Yeah, a lot of these cases are not at the courts. I'm just doing the housing, but a lot of the cases are not at the court. They are just administrative, and they're not filed with the court. And I did want to point out that Showalter that you asked about the last time. We are settled in that case.
Oh, is that right? They reached agreement on conciliation?
Not conciliation, but settlement.
Oh, okay. Good.
We mediated it. We're just waiting on the respondent to sign the agreement. If the lawyer and I have communicated.
Oh, that's great. Okay, good. Good news. Thanks.
And even though I'm just doing the housing, if I see where they wanted to mediate in the employment, then I try to do those. So we have a couple that we have gotten mediated. One we're still working on to get the lady to sign it.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions regarding the legal report? Do I have a motion to accept it?
Motion to accept the legal,
I don't think we need a motion for the
Report.
legal report.
I
You
don't
don't need
think
to
you have,
vote on the legal cases.
you don't have to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Under new business, agency social media enhancement, I believe that was related to a suggestion that Commissioner Rabbi had made several meetings ago. Am I correct?
Yes, I stated that in the short term, while we're working to do something, having a social media presence is something that can be very simply done. If the board would like, I can start working on that. I did look at what several other human rights commissions across the nations have done to promote the fact that they exist and to let people know they can be contacted. There was a viral campaign New York recently did that was pretty amazing. But it's something that can be very done. It can be done very cheaply. And it would be a resource for those who literally don't know what we do and don't know we are a resource.
And I'll jump in. I will say, I actually just bugged Brandon about this morning. We have a Twitter account that someone was managing who is no longer here. And so the last posted information was from May of 18, I believe. And so I reached out to Twitter to try to get that access to that handle, and then can start building out some more visibility and some campaigns basically on what we do, what we can do, what we don't do. And I would be happy to work with you on some of that as we move that out. I don't expect to hear back from them for at least a week because they have to do a special agency verification, because so people don't just go in and say, oh, that was actually my account and someone else took it. So they have to, since it's a different email address that reached out about that handle, it might take them a while to get back to me. But once they do, we can definitely talk about how to start moving that forward a little bit.
Sounds good.
I think
guys do.
you
I do have something. I'm
work.
sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Cobb.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment on the media situation. If you guys do form a committee or have, some input that you need for that, I would be glad to be a part of that as well. Just getting the word out. I do some media stuff myself, so I just want to lend a hand with that.
So now that we have our new executive director on board, Commissioner Rabbi, Commissioner Cole, whatever you all have, just please direct everything through Mr. Sullivan. And we want to keep him in the loop from this point on, and we'll try to get our media relations enhanced and up and going. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda, states committee reports. We do not have committee reports, but I do need a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel related issues. If I can have a motion to do so.
Motion to
Made
go
the
into
motion.
closed session. Motion to go
Okay,
into closed
Commissioner.
session.
Second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rabbi. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Brandon, a few seconds here to.
Okay, let me first off stop the YouTube